The quiet private, who never spoke during drills, dropped to the dirt like a stone, and for exactly 3 seconds, the bullies thought they'd won. No one at Fort Benning knew that Private Riley Thompson had been unconscious in enemy territory before, or that waking up was something she'd been trained to do with lethal precision. It was a Thursday evening in early September when 3 senior enlisted soldiers cornered her behind the supply depot. Riley had transferred from a classified unit mid-cycle, kept her head down, wore her uniform without any flash or flare. She looked like an easy target. Staff Sergeant Madison Pierce, a 7-year veteran with a chip on her shoulder about female operators, had been circling her for weeks. Today, she decided to make her move. The confrontation started with words. Madison blocked Riley's path. Flanked by her 2 enablers, Corporal Ashley Davis and Specialist Brittany Walsh, they mocked her silence, her lack of unit badges, the way she always trained alone after hours. Riley didn't respond. She never did. That silence, calm, steady, unshakable, infuriated Madison in ways she couldn't articulate. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. When Madison shoved Riley backward, the smaller soldier absorbed resistance, boots sliding slightly in the dirt but posture unchanged. When Ashley grabbed her shoulder, Riley let it happen. She'd learned a long time ago that ego was the most dangerous weapon you could carry into a fight. The moment Brittany swung, a wild, untrained hook aimed at Riley's temple, everything accelerated. Riley moved her head 3 inches to the right. The fist passed through empty air. Then Madison, emboldened and furious, threw a harder punch. This one connecting with Riley's jaw with a crack that echoed off the metal walls behind them. Riley's knees buckled. Her vision tunneled. She hit the ground face first, arms limp at her sides, unconscious. The 3 soldiers stood over her, breathing hard, adrenaline spiking through their veins. Ashley laughed nervously. Brittany looked around to make sure no one had seen. Madison stared down at Riley's motionless body and, for a flicker of a moment, something resembling fear crossed her face. "She's faking," Madison said, but her voice wavered. Riley wasn't faking. Her brain had simply done what it was designed to do when trauma struck. It had shut down non-essential systems to protect itself. But her body, honed through 6 years of naval special warfare training and dozens of classified operations before her transfer, had other protocols running beneath the surface. 3 seconds. That's how long her autonomic nervous system took to reboot. On the 4th second, Riley's eyes opened. Not slowly. Not grudgingly. They snapped open with the clarity of someone waking from a tactical nap in a hostile zone, pupils contracting against the setting sun, threat assessment already underway. Madison saw it happen. She watched the private on the ground transform from victim to something else entirely. Riley's breathing changed, deep, controlled, oxygenating her muscles. Her fingers flexed once, testing for injury. Then she moved. It wasn't fast in the way movies show speed. It was efficient. Economical. Riley rolled onto the balls of her feet and rose in a single fluid motion, weight distributed perfectly, center of gravity low. The 3 soldiers stumbled backward, suddenly uncertain. "Stay down, Private," Madison ordered, but it sounded like a plea. Riley didn't speak. She never did. Instead, she took 1 step forward, and the air itself seemed to thicken. Ashley's hand moved toward her sidearm holster before she remembered they weren't carrying. Brittany pressed herself against the depot wall. Madison raised her fists, but her hands were shaking. Here's what Riley knew that they didn't. Violence wasn't about anger or rank. It was about geometry, angles, leverage, economy of motion. She'd been taught by SEAL instructors who'd survived rooms full of armed insurgents. These 3 had been taught standard Army combatives and their own sense of entitlement. Riley could have ended it in seconds. A strike to Madison's solar plexus would collapse her diaphragm. A sweep to Ashley's lead leg would put her on the ground before she could process what happened. Brittany was already out of the fight, mentally, eyes wide with the sudden understanding that they'd made a catastrophic miscalculation. But Riley didn't move forward. She stood there, balanced, ready, and did something far more devastating than any physical strike. She smiled, not cruelly, not mockingly. It was the smile of someone who'd looked at far worse threats and decided they weren't worth the energy. It was the smile that said, "You have no idea who you're dealing with, and I'm choosing to let that be a gift." "What?" Madison started, voice breaking. Behind them, a voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Is there a problem here, Staff Sergeant?" Master Sergeant Henderson stood at the corner of the depot, arms crossed, eyes taking in the scene, with the quick assessment of someone who'd broken up 1,000 confrontations. But his gaze lingered on Riley, noting her stance, the relaxed readiness in her shoulders, the complete absence of fear in her eyes, and something else, recognition. "Sir, this private," Brittany started. Henderson held up one hand. "I asked." The staff sergeant. His eyes never left Madison. "What's going on?" Madison looked at Riley's split lip, already swelling, at the scrape on her cheekbone where she'd hit the ground, at her own red knuckles. She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally said, "Training accident, Master Sergeant." Henderson's eyes narrowed. He looked at Riley. "That true, Private Thompson?" Riley stood at parade rest, eyes forward. "Yes, Master Sergeant." The lie hung in the air for a long moment. Henderson knew it was a lie. Everyone there knew it was a lie, but something in Riley's steady gaze told him she was handling this her own way. "Staff Sergeant Pierce, Corporal Davis, Specialist Walsh, you're dismissed. We'll discuss proper training protocols tomorrow at 0600 in my office." His tone made it clear that discussion would not be pleasant. The three women saluted and left quickly, throwing glances back at Riley that mixed confusion with something that looked like respect. When they were gone, Henderson turned to Riley. "Walk with me, Thompson." They walked in silence past the barracks, toward the training fields. Finally, Henderson spoke. "I read your file when you transferred in. Most of it's redacted, but I know enough." Riley said nothing. "SEAL Team 6, direct. Action missions. 3 tours in places that don't officially exist." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "So why are you here, playing regular army, letting soldiers who've never seen real combat treat you like a punching bag?" Riley was quiet for a long moment, watching a group of new recruits doing evening PT in the distance. "Because I'm not that person anymore, Master Sergeant. Medical discharge. The teams didn't want someone with a traumatic brain injury, even if I passed all the tests. So they transferred me here, told me to finish out my contract doing regular infantry work. And you're okay with that?" "I'm learning to be." She touched her split lip gently. "But being strong isn't about proving it. It's about choosing when to use it." Those 3 soldiers, they needed to learn something more valuable than how to take a beating. "What's that?" "That mercy is a choice. That someone could destroy you and decides not to. Maybe that changes them. Maybe it doesn't. But at least they'll remember." Henderson studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You know, Thompson, we have a combatives instructor position opening up. Someone who could teach these soldiers real hand-to-hand combat, not just the basic curriculum. Someone who's actually used it in the field." Riley looked at him, surprise flickering across her usually stoic face. "Think about it," Henderson said. "You might not be on the teams anymore, but you still have something to teach. Maybe that's your new mission." He started to walk away, then paused. "And Thompson? Next time someone puts hands on you, you have my permission to defend yourself. Some lessons need to be taught harder than others." Riley stood alone on the training field as the sun set over Fort Benning, thinking about second chances in new missions. About how the hardest part of being a warrior wasn't the fighting, it was knowing when to be something else. The next morning, Riley found an unsigned note taped to her locker. Just 2 words in Madison's handwriting. "Respect, ma'am." She never responded. She didn't need to. 3 weeks later, Private Riley Thompson stood in front of her first combatives class as the base's new hand-to-hand combat instructor. Among the soldiers in formation were Staff Sergeant Madison Pierce, Corporal Ashley Davis, and Specialist Brittany Walsh, all of them there voluntarily. ready to learn from someone who'd actually walked the walk on the first day Riley taught them the most important lesson she'd ever learned. Real strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about having the power to destroy someone and choosing not to. That's what separates warriors from bullies. Madison met her eyes and nodded, understanding passing between them without words, because kindness doesn't vanish. It waits. And it finds its way back. And sometimes the soldier, who never speaks, says everything that matters without making a sound. If this story reminded you that strength isn't about dominance but about choice, drop a comment below. And if you believe that even warriors deserve second chances, hit subscribe. These stories matter because you're here to hear them. Thank you for your service, and thank you for listening.